Hello and thanks for joining us on Encore. My guest today is a stand-up comedian, an actor and a writer.
Hi, I'm Dave. I've been a stand-up for 27 years, ladies and gentlemen. 27 years and nobody knows who the I am. If I'd have been a spy, I'd had a brilliant career.
His name's Dave Johns, but many people now think of him as Daniel Blake, an unemployed carpenter navigating the benefit system in the UK and the hero of Ken Loach's latest film. After a standing ovation at the Cannes Film Festival, the social realist drama won the top prize, the Palme d'Or, and its leading man was thrust into the spotlight. Now he joins me in the studio. Dave Johns, thanks so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
Now, Daniel Blake, was the talk of the Cannes Film Festival this year. It was a huge success, and it was your first film. Not a bad start in the industry. Did you know Ken Loach's work before?
Yeah, I was aware of Ken's work. When I was a kid, Kess, and then all the stuff that he's done so far. When the Shakes the Barley, and and Kathy Come Home, which was his big one in the sort of 50s. But yeah, so it was thrilling to work with him.
What image did you have of him as a filmmaker?
Ken, I think he's very respected in the film industry. He's been around a long time. He gives a voice to subjects and to people that don't usually have a voice, and I think that's why people enjoy his films.
Okay, well, let's take a look at an extract of the film. This is from Ken Loach's Daniel Blake.
It's really important we get this filled in because we need to get the process started.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Anne. Can I have a word, please?
Could you just give me 30 seconds, please? We're just
Well,
getting
actually, can I have a word now in my office, thank you? Right.
Jesus, I'm getting into trouble now. I'm really sorry.
It's me that should be sorry. You just carry on, you're doing good.
You know, Anne, we've spoke about this before. That isn't acceptable.
I think in this case, it's quite reasonable.
Oh, okay, it's got that, yeah.
Well, we can see from that clip that technology is not your character's thing.
No.
But what struck me about the film were that these acts of generosity, of kindness among people. Now, you grew up in Newcastle. Do you think that's a regional thing?
Well, I think where the film was shot was actually where I was brought up as a kid, in a place called Baker, which is in the northeast of England. It was a different place, Baker, when I was a kid to what it is today. It was a working class area and there was a community. I think what's happened now is a lot of communities have been broken up because in the UK there's not social housing that there used to be, and so it's nice to see that communities will come together or try to still hold on to some sort of community spirit, when it's difficult these days.
Now, we saw in that scene there's this generational divide between people when it comes to technology and these systems that are meant to make our lives easier, to streamline things, the internet and all of that. Do you think that's actually driving a wedge between people?
Well, I think, my daughter, she's 10 years of age and she's a whiz on sort of computers and on, if I ever get stuck on my phone, she always helps me. So I think, I don't know if it's a generational thing. I think that when you've got social media like Facebook and Twitter, people can get isolated on it. It becomes an echo chamber, if you like. You start talking to people who are like-minded and you forget about the outside world. And I think we need to maybe get off Facebook and Twitter. There's nothing wrong for using it now and then, but I think a lot of people get stuck into that, and I think we need to come together more,
Now, the film Daniel Blake talks about employment and the situation right now, economic situation right now in the UK. And since the film was released, the UK Work and Pensions Secretary Damien Green had said that it was a work of fiction in the way that it describes the system. What would you say to that?
Well, he would, wouldn't he? I mean, they don't like it being brought out in the open. This film was extensively researched by Ken and Paul Lafferty, the writer. They spoke to hundreds and hundreds of people who were in the same situations, even worse situations than is depicted in the film. So it could have been a lot worse, basically. I think that the situation with the Social Security, that it used to be called Social Security in England, now they've changed even the name to benefit and to welfare. it's lost sight of who it's supposed to be helping, and it's about saving money. It's about bureaucracy, and I think that's where we've gone wrong. We've demonised too often people who are unemployed and who are on the, if you would like to say, need help.
Now, the film getting noticed like that by people in government is obviously an important and impressive thing. Do you think it can help affect policy?
I think if enough people, what I found is I did a lot of film festivals around Europe, and I got the same answers from people and the same questions that I get in the UK. People are saying it's happening in our country too, in Spain and France. It's so I think there is this austerity. People have had enough of it, I think, and I think that if enough people say they're unhappy, then I think maybe hopefully they will take, because you usually find that governments won't do anything until the hand is forced.
Now, in terms of people voicing their discontent in the UK, we've seen a recent vote to leave the European Union. And I think we saw from that there's a certain disparity between what people are expressing and saying at the polls and what governments perhaps are thinking what they should be saying or will be saying. Do you think the result of this vote has given the voice back to the majority?
It depends what people think they were voting for when they did the referendum. I mean, I personally, we all know the European Union needs reform, but I think it's a mistake that we should be coming together and sorting it out together rather than splitting up. I think nationalism is quite a scary thing if it's unbridled, But I think the people in England just got fed up of being, left behind, really. And I think they said, well, if you're not going to listen to us, you listen to us now because we're going to say we want out. I don't know whether people think that they've got. I mean, there was this thing branded about in England about getting our country back. I don't understand that. Our country didn't go anywhere, And I think a lot of the Brit exit, a lot of people were lied to, and there was a lot of mistruths in it. They didn't tell it straight, about how much money is paid into Europe and the money would go to the National Health Service. So I think it'll be interesting to find out what is happening when it actually does happen,
Mm-hmm. Well, you're a stand-up comedian by trade, so maybe there's going to be some material for you there. You regularly appear on UK television as well, so let's take a look at some of your work.
I'm a working class lad. I'm very proud of my working class. You can tell I'm working class. I've got little bits of scratch card under my fingernails.
Now, you brought some of that humour into the film, I, Daniel Blake, but given that it's quite dark subject matter, sickness, unemployment, precarious situations, how funny did you want to play it? How did you find that balance?
Well, I mean, that's all comes from Paul Lafferty's script, I mean, I think, I was able to bring it because I probably have got the time and I know when a thing instinctively is funny. I think, all our lives, we all have, humour's the thing that gets you through adversity. I mean, you find it in all walks of life. So I think the humour is a natural thing that, any human being would have to get through. And I think Dan's got it. But then as he gets ground down, it gets harder and harder to put a brave face on it,
And you say the character, he has quite a light-hearted approach to his situation. He can be funny about it. But I did notice that he has a skill. He has a job that he can go back to. He's a carpenter. How do you think the situation is different for young people today?
I mean, I can only speak from my experience because, I haven't had a real job, if you like. I've been a stand-up comic for 27 years.
Oh, that's a job.
Yeah, but I was a bricklayer, and I left school and I became an apprentice. And it's apprenticeships, It's about sort of there's a lot of anger at the moment in the UK with 0 hours contracts, where people don't know whether they're going to be working the next day or whether they're going to be turned away to go home. So how can you plan if you've got 0 hours contracts? I think there's not enough real jobs, and I mean things like apprenticeships, things that can give somebody that they feel as though they're doing something useful. And I think that's a way we need to go is more apprenticeships, more invigorating young people. I mean, what's amazing about what's happening in England at the moment is that a lot of young people are getting politicised, which is nice, you know, which I was quite good, because that's where change is going to come from the youth, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, hopefully this film is going to contribute to that. As you mentioned, it got a fantastic reception here in France at the Cannes Film Festival. French critics love Ken Loach as well.
Yeah.
Do you think there's similar recognition for work like that, independent cinema, from the cultural establishment in the UK?
Well, you know, I mean, we've got the British Independent Film Awards this sort of year that's coming up. I think they sort of give a lot of independent film a lot of help. You've got the British Film Institute, you know. I mean, Cannes was insane. It blew my mind, Cannes. I mean, it was crazy. At one moment when I went up in the lift with Woody Allen, and we were just both sitting in dinner suits and we never said a word to each other. And I was just thinking, this is Woody Allen going up in the lift. So yeah, I mean, you know, I think that you know, there has to be, like, you know, there's a place for big blockbusters as well and big studio films. But I do think that, you know, a lot of the interesting work comes from independent filmmakers, you know. So we're more power to the elbow, you know, to that.
Long may it last, Dave Johns. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Pleasure.
You can catch Dave Johns on stage at London's Comedy Store later this month, and we'll leave you with a little more of his stand-up, this time showing off his musical talents. Remember to check out our website, and you can also keep up with Encore on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. There's more news coming up on France 24 after this.
A new partner, she's pretty cool, we get on quite well. I mean, there's one big problem we have. She's crazy about cats. I can't stand cats. I wake up in the middle of the night, she stand at the bottom of the bed in a nightie. Midnight, not a sound from the pavement. As the moon lost its memory, there she's standing alone. Then she jumps on the bed. Oh, did you ever see a cat so clever as magical Mr. Mistopheles?